So one of our questions we get a lot from people is people say, "Do you believe Bigfoot is alien, spiritual, or is he flesh?" I have an opinion that I know that a lot of people don't agree with, and I know that we don't know anything for sure, so mine's just a theory. But I'm trying to learn, and I'm open to anything. So I'm trying to give people the opportunity, I guess, to convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
Well, to touch on that, there's a few things that I can tell you, and there's a few things I can only speculate on. The first thing I can say is there's very good evidence back in, I believe it was 1969, a farmer in Minnesota shot something that he called the missing link. He thought it was a living relic caveman. It was on his farm. There were 3 of them. He shot one with a 30-06 and killed it. He got the bright idea. At that time, he got a trailer and a large deep freezer. The trailer was enclosed. He put the body in the trailer, or rather in the freezer, put the freezer in the trailer, put water in the freezer so it would freeze to a block of ice, had glass over it so that you could see it, you just couldn't touch it, and he literally would take this thing around to shopping malls and such and charge you 50 cents to go through the trailer and look at the missing link.
Oh, wow.
Now, that's been called the Minnesota Iceman. Okay, this went on for a year and a half, and he got several subpoenas where he was supposed to come in and do a deposition on what this creature is, how it was killed, and basically they were wanting to charge him with murder.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, he was not going around with this thing, and about 6 weeks later, he started touring again, but this time, the advertisement on the side of the trailer said a copy of the Minnesota Iceman.
Okay.
Now, the History Channel actually did a show on it maybe a year ago, and they compared photographs taken of the original, and they compared that to photographs taken of, quote, the copy. Now, the photographic evidence proved that the copy was not the same as the original. Once he started getting the subpoenas, he changed the story of how he got the body to, well, he was up in Seattle and he actually bought it off some Russian fishermen who had found it floating in the sea. Okay, and then there was a third story that was as unbelievable as the second story. They were pretty much able to prove that the man had never been to Seattle, where he said he bought it. Just nothing of that story made sense or added up. Secondly, if he would have got it in Seattle, now you have the problem of getting it cross country all the way back to Minnesota without, it decaying to the point where it was nothing.
Right.
So, do I believe that was a Bigfoot? Yes, I do, very much so. I've seen the photographs both. I've studied them. I actually watched that show. But I had been looking into this for over 10 years. Now, the face on it, and I'm sure you've probably seen the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yes.
Okay, the face was similar to Patty's, but had slightly less hair, a little bit wider and flatter nose, but very similar. The head structure also was very similar in the fact that it was somewhat conical instead of round.
See, and a lot of people say to me, they think that they're spirits, or they're able to live interdimensional. And
interdimensional, I can believe to a point.
My theory kind of on that is, people say, they see orbs and light flashes around them and stuff.
Sure.
And I know that to be true. I've witnessed that personally.
Yeah.
So I.
And, the little alien things that we see, you usually see those around the area. And there's always things that happen around the area where they're at that I would even go as far as to say, yes, they are paranormal activities. But my thing is, maybe the Bigfoot themselves are not the ones that's interdimensional. Maybe they carry the Nephilim blood, and the aliens that I call demons are interested in them because of the Nephilim blood, been some sort of distant cousin, close to the same blood, and knowing that they share this hate, for mankind. Most of them, I believe there are some that's not as evil as others, but
And I agree totally that there are some that are truthfully evil. There are some that are not evil, that just want left alone.
right.
But I believe all of them are going to defend themselves. And let's face it, you or me are never going to win a fair fight against one.
Oh no, never. No. It's people are going to learn a lot probably in this conversation that I'm going to put in my book that I've tried not to talk about. But another thing that one of my theories was on even the dogmen and the werewolf. They say that the shapeshifter. And my thing was, what if a dogman? Now this is just a theory, and we're going to get I'm sure a lot of people are going to comment on this. But what if they're both the same thing, except for a werewolf has become possessed by a demon, which would make it by nature a lot eviler, nastier than a regular dogman. I believe they're both dangerous for sure, no matter where they come from. They're both very dangerous.
Yes.
But the pigs were possessed in the Bible, and
Correct.
Demons can't they can't materialize into a solid form, but they can possess a solid form that they can get into. And if
That is correct.
And if they could get into these creatures, say a dogman, and make it even worse than what it already is, there's your kid eater, your face eater, because they hate us by nature anyways, because we're, God's pick.
Sure.
On that though, there is a new thing that's going around with like the satanic people and everything with the rituals. They are taking armadillos and raccoons and also using them to cast whatever they're summoning into one of those animals and letting him go.
Oh wow.
Okay. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to release this evidently to the world now that we have never shared with anybody.
Right.
This happened at LBL 2 years ago. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because your sister brought up armadillos.
Uh-huh.
Okay, part of my team, and at that time I could not get off work, to accompany him, but part of my team went to Land Between the Lakes. Now, I had very strange dreams right before they left. The night before they left, I actually woke up in the middle of the night, made a call, told them they were going to have a dogman stick its head in the tent. Because that's what the dream was.
Uh-huh.
Well, they were actually all prepared for that, had set up trail cams and other things to kind of guard for that. Well, they were there a week. Never saw a dog man. But what happened one night was 3 of them were walking about 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, they had thermals with them. They also had night vision. They had some winged creature that was probably 10 foot tall, and the wings were more bird-like than bat-like. They were feathered. Fly and land right in front of them. Only one actually saw the entire thing. One saw part of the outline of it. The third one, he did not actually see it because he was looking in a different direction, but he felt the wind from the wings flapping on him.
Right.
The one member grabbed his spotlight off his side to light it up. As soon as he did, it was an armadillo.
Uh-huh.
Now, from a 10-foot tall winged creature to an armadillo. Now, this armadillo started acting very funny to them, almost challenging them, was making very strange noises. The one team member actually recorded the noises, and when played back, they sound nothing like any creature I've ever heard. They sound more like, and the best way I can put this is something from outer space.
Or maybe a demonic talk.
Mm-hmm.
Very well could be.
You see,
Very well could be.
There was a thing that happened at my granny's. I'm going to spill another one. They had a dog, and on this particular occasion, the dog come running out of the field, and it was carrying something. They wasn't sure what it was carrying, but it would run a little ways, and it would drop it, and it would pick it back up, and it would run a little ways, and it would drop it, and it continued to do this until it got up into the yard. And it gets to the propane tank, and it drops it, and it catches on fire, burns itself to pretty much nothing, and all the grass around it.
Wow.
Yeah, that was one of the things that, like I was telling you, that they did have the Bigfoot there. They had, pretty sure, the werewolf, dogman,
Right.
whichever
Right.
one. But there was these other things that would happen. Like, they had my uncle served in Vietnam, and he came back from Vietnam, and this was all going on. And they had like a man that would go across their pasture, almost looked like he was floating, with a white t-shirt, balding looking old man. He had shot it several times, and it would just continue to move unaffected.
Right.
So I mean, there was things that happened there that was paranormal, but then you also had the creature I shot in the cattails that fell, left blood, and was injured.
Yep.
So it makes me wonder, do the Bigfoot attract these spiritual beings? It's not actually the Bigfoot, but are they maybe followed by these things?
Kind of like.
I very much think they are. Now, are the Bigfoot flesh and blood? Okay, there are Bigfoot all over the world.
Yes.
Every continent, with the exception of Antarctica, Bigfoot has been spotted on. True, they have a different name everywhere you go, but still, for the most part, they're Bigfoot. Now, a very good friend of mine killed a, quote, rock ape when he was in Nam, because he was special forces and a sniper. We were not supposed to be in Cambodia or in Laos.
Right.
The North Vietnamese would actually put their top-ranking brass over in Cambodia because they felt they were more protected there to run the war from. So this particular individual was on a mission over in Cambodia to kill a certain Vietnamese general. Him and his team had been out for 6 weeks. They were on their way back when they encountered what they thought was a Vietnamese sniper in a ghillie suit. It had its back turned to him.
Right.
Okay, the spotter looked at it, gave him the thumbs up to take the shot. He took the shot, hit it at the base of the skull, severing its spine. It fell instantly. They waited a few minutes to make sure that they weren't going to get overrun with NVA, and then they went up to confirm the kill. When they got to it, here it is laying face down. So they roll the body over. They're going to pull the head dressing off, except it's not a ghillie suit. It is what they called a rock ape, which was about a 6.5 foot tall Bigfoot.
Wow. You see,
when they got back to their base of operation back in Vietnam, they made their reports. Out of the 6 members that were on that team, all 6 made an identical report of what happened, and it being a, quote, rock ape. They were all told, no, that was an NVA sniper.
Right.
5 of them changed their report on it. The 6th one, they saw leave in handcuffs, and they never saw him again.
He probably wouldn't change his story.
Right.
So, there was an instance, another thing that happened at my granny's. They were asleep, and they said it sounded like there was beans spilled all over the kitchen floor. So they all got up and they go in there to try to find out, what this is, why is beans, spilled all over our floor. There's nothing in there. And then they go to sleep, and while they're sleeping, there was 8 of them, and they stayed home alone with my granny because my grandpa, he logged and was gone for a week at a time. But
sure.
Whenever one of them woke up, she looked, and this thing was standing over the bed looking at them. And she was afraid and just covered her head up and was afraid to say anything. She was terrified. She's just a little girl. Well, one of the guys I know, he's older now, but he was down there and used to run around with my uncles and stuff when they were older. And he went to stay all night, just to see if this was real, to go down there and spook hunt. So they're sitting on the back porch, which didn't have a roof on it at the time because the house had burnt and they were repairing the home. And it looked up over the roof at him and scared him so bad he never went back.
Does not surprise me.
I mean, Granny had some really bad encounters.
Sound like a coffee pot.
Yeah.
Percolating in there.
I mean, there's a lot more things that happened down there that was just, there was nights, I stayed the night there, that you were so afraid because, it would push on the doors, beat on the windows, it would, scratch on the house, it would growl, and then it would even say my mom's name at times. It called my granny's name. It knew her first name. It stood out on the front sidewalk and held its hand out and done the come here motion with these long fingernails. And it was telling her, it was saying her name, which her name was Helen. It would go, Helen, but in its own voice, this creepy, animalistic voice, calling her outside.
I actually just had something similar happen to me at my house. I was outside smoking a cigarette. Somebody yelled my name, or something yelled my name. There's a ravine right behind me. Okay, and there have been reports of Bigfoot just about half a mile the other side of that ravine. There have also, just down the road, about 1.75 miles, been reports and pictures taken of dogmen. So, who it was, what it was, called my name is beyond me. I know it was not a neighbor because, number one, the one neighbor was not even home. Number two, the other neighbor, he wasn't, well, I won't say he wasn't home, but if he was home, somebody else had his vehicle and there were no lights on. So I'm assuming he was gone also. But I have not got to talk to him to, make sure of that yet.
Right.
But I mean, it was clear as day, and I actually got up out of my chair and started to walk over that way, and then thought, what the hell are you doing? Don't be stupid.
We were fishing one night, and we were out on a little peninsula, and we started hearing these noises, sounding like a baby crying. It started sounding like a cow.
Cat.
Yeah, a little cat, a kitten. I mean, anything it could do, but we kept ignoring it. And it
Right.
got to the point to where I turned around, and the truck was parked back from us because we had to walk to the water. And I see it walking along the shoreline, and it's tall, skinny. It's walking kind of bent over like it's got a bad back. It's not this big thing that everybody talks about that I'm seeing. So I see it walking. It's making these weird grunt noises and just freaky noises.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts walking toward me. Well, I carry everywhere I'm at. So I told it, to stop. The kids were up there. I'm not going to let it hurt the kids.
Exactly.
And it keeps coming at us. So I yell for it again to stop. And it keeps coming, making these noises. I worked in security with law enforcement all my life. So I drew on it. And I told it, I said, I'm armed and you're about to get shot. I said, you need to get away from us, leave our campsite. And it just stood there. So I told it, and I'm not going to say the exact words I used, but
Right.
I told it that I was going to remove its head. And it laughed at me in the eeriest laugh. I mean, how would you describe that laugh that night?
Very evil.
Yep.
It just
Yeah.
laughed. But even though it did laugh, it did leave. So that told me it did fear my firearm. It told me that it understood what I told it, which is kind of scary knowing that it actually understands conversation.
Yeah, it's intelligent.
Yeah, and it left. It retreated to the wood line like it always does. So my mom's like, let's load up, let's leave. So we start leaving, and as we're driving through the woods, and I'm talking these trees are like right at your truck. I mean, you got to drive down these trails. I'm in a 4-wheel drive.
Right.
It runs up and slams the side of the truck and tries to jerk my door open. Yeah, and we get home, and it's just like my whole side of my truck where it hit the truck was like moss and mud.
Yeah.
Just stank. So it smelled like,
Black licorice. Sounds.
yeah, like a black licorice. Like, whenever like a flood, how whenever you get a lot of flood and it's drying up and you got that vegetation stink and
Yep.
it smelled like that with I call it a black licorice smell. It smells like black licorice.
Stinks.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yep.
But that, I mean, I'm just going to be straight honest, that scared the shit out of me that night. I mean, that was
It would me too.
very uncomfortable.
I think with them being so curious, there's like millions of hunters, that go out.
Oh, yeah.
And there's probably some of them that just stalk certain people. And they can see, the hunters take down deer, squirrel, or whatever. So that's my guess on how they know that a gun is dangerous.
I will say, and I haven't shared this with the viewers, so this is another peek into something they're going to get to see. I think we have actually found a Bigfoot home. I'm not an expert on what they are, but me and Sarah and her husband, we went on a hike, and we went very deep into the woods where people don't go around here. This is where I live, this is very remote area. There's places down here people haven't probably been in 100 years.
Yep.
So we went way down into this place. I mean, we hiked way back in there. And all of a sudden, above the creek up on this hill is this big tree. And at this big tree, there is these huge limbs, like, I don't know, 12-inch diameter. Like little trees pretty much. And they're leaned up around this big tree in a teepee style with a doorway. And it's got like grass and moss and shrubbery all over, and it looks just like a tent. Well, Sarah actually said, let's go up and take pictures of it. That's pretty cool. So we start going up toward it, and her husband was actually first.
Yeah.
And he was a non-believer. He was did not believe in this stuff. And we start hearing whistles. And when the whistles started, I knew, because I'd been around. Me and Sarah, I looked at her, and she's like, time to go. Well, he's like, let's look. About that time, it steps out from around the tree down from him, and it growls a growl that, if you've heard it, you know, and if you haven't, you don't.
Exactly right.
It just rattles your bones.
Yep. And we sends shivers down your spine.
Oh yeah. We started heading out of there. Well, when we're heading out, of course it's a long ways in there, and we're having to go around trails and over dead trees.
It's a 4-hour walk out of there.
Yeah, it's 4 hours, and we're going. We're following this creek all the way down. There's hills. I mean, it's terrible down in there. But whenever we start going out, we can hear it busting the limbs behind us. So Sarah turns, and she just snaps a photo. Well, she has a picture of it beside the tree.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, this thing was not the skinny thing. This thing is big.
Massive.
It is, yes.
It's like buff.
It's, very big. Very wide. And if that's, I don't know if that's how they make their houses, but I would assume that was a house. I wouldn't think it was a nest, because it looked to me like it was built to be used for a while, not for,
It was like perfectly built.
Yeah, it was perfect. I mean, it was just like, something you would go down there and you would build if you were going to hunt. But you could tell by where it was at and how it was built that it didn't belong there, because this is in the middle. I mean, you couldn't drive back there if you wanted to. It was hard enough to walk.
Right.
And then, after we done that, we went back to the bridge that kind of cuts back down to where it's at. It's still a long ways from it, but this bridge shares the same waterway.
Right.
And this is where that night we went down there, where the little voice on the camera says, what was it? Can you find me?
Can you see me?
Or can you see me or something? Well, everybody asked me on the video, they're like, oh my God, why didn't you leave, when you heard that? And I was like, hell, I would have. But we didn't hear it, we didn't hear it until I was editing the video. And it was caught,
and that's not uncommon.
It was caught on the audio of the video. And when I heard that, I sat there for a minute and I was like, what? So I rewound it, and I'm like, Sarah, there's a voice here. And then she listens to it, she's like, oh, hell no. I mean, it's one of them things. I'm not going to go real far into detail right now, because it's something I want to put in my book.
Yeah.
Right.
I've had a demonic experience. I don't hunt demons. I don't like to do demonology. I'm not into that. I'm into the cryptid animals. If it lives, breathes, bleeds, it dies.
Right, exactly.
But I have had those encounters, and I had one that was very, very bad. It was bad enough that one of my, we'll say, friends sustained actual damage from it. and it was, from what I've read, and I don't read a lot about it, poltergeist, because it was moving things. It was able to inflict like slap marks. So,
Yeah, I ain't doing that. You can count me out if you do a video
but
like
you,
that.
but you know, it was so bad, and I hate this. I hate that it's so scary, but it is so bad. You know, Kaylee, that's on our team. She may not even be staying with us because of these encounters. She's became afraid and doesn't know that, this is what she wants to pursue, and I don't blame her. I mean, there's times that I'm out there and I question myself, and I've been in sticky
We all
situations,
do that.
working security and with law enforcement and everything. I've been in
Sure.
situations, but it's a different feeling. It's a more of a feeling of they're not in your world, you're in their world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is their
Exactly right.
this is their home.
Now, can I make a suggestion to you that a lot of people in this field do not know?
Okay.
Do you use EMF meters?
No.
Mhm.
No.
You
No.
need to.
I've heard people tell me I should do that, but
Secondly, do you use a radiation detector?
no.
You need to. And I'm going to get into detail right now why and exactly what happened to one of my team members.
Okay.
We had talked about this, and he was, shall we say, more open to it than the rest of the team members. So he actually went on, I believe it was Cheaper Than Dirt, and bought a surplus Army radiation detector. Well, he wanted to try it out. There is a certain area that we have long thought there is a portal at. So he takes the radiation meter with him down to this area. As he's about 60 foot from this one cross of trees, the radiation detector starts going off more than background. The closer he gets to it, the radiation goes up. When he was within 15 foot of it, the radiation detector was spiked at life-threatening.
Oh, wow.
Now, he turned around, got the hell out of there, and the whole time he was doing this, he was on the phone with me. Before it ever got to life-threatening, I told him, turn around, get the hell out of there. I know where this is going. Well, until it got to life-threatening, he wouldn't listen to me.
Right.
So, at that point in time, he did turn around, went back up, and he had made a mistake to start with. Normally, when he goes out, he is armed.
Right.
He was not at that time because he was just walking in the woods a little bit to test his radiation meter.
I've been there.
Okay, so he turns around, goes the 150 yards back up to the truck and grabs the firearm. Turns right around with the firearm and walks back to it. Now, mind you, I'm still on the phone with him the whole time. No radiation detected. He gets right to the two trees that form the cross. And there's just a small amount of residual radiation on those trees. When just 5 minutes earlier, if he would have gotten all the way to those trees, he'd be dead.
Right.
Jeez.
So, my theory, and of course, I'm not sure how I'm going to prove it without actually maybe dying doing it, is the next time we find this, we're going to have to throw something through that X. See what happens. Does it disappear? Does it go into a different dimension?
Right.
All of our thoughts on it, and we're all pretty much in agreement that that is a portal that's being used to go from one dimension to another. Now, when it's active, I believe, is when you have the high radiation readings.
So are you talking kind of like something like CERN?
I'm thinking it takes you to a different dimension when you go through it. You know, for years and years and years, there was thought to be 3 dimensions. Then all of a sudden, oh, yeah, there's probably 4 dimensions, and it's, well, there may be 7. And last I actually heard, now we're up to possibly 11 different dimensions.
Right.
So
here's your one I'd like to hear your opinion on.
Sure.
I done a video on it. There's a place out here that's at the end of a dirt road that goes nowhere but to a dead-end floodplain. There is nothing down there. There can never be nothing down there because it's owned by the Corps of Engineers. You cannot build a house on it. It cannot be sold. It's just floodplain land, okay?
Sure.
So listen to this. It's going to blow your mind. This is where I saw my first Wolfman, okay?
Okay.
I was 12, 13 years old. It ran us off. That's another story. But anyways, what they done is they went and put a $1 million bridge in place of a small concrete bridge. I'm talking, it's an actual $1 million bridge that goes over a creek to a dead end with a broken bridge, okay?
Right.
Okay. So at the end of this broken bridge, my buddy tells me, well, we'll go back a little bit. Me and Sarah was going to go fishing, and we go down the road, and as we go around the curve to go to the broken bridge that we fish off of for crappie and stuff for our other channel,
right,
there's a guard shack there in the middle of this dead-end dirt road in the middle of nowhere, right? A guy's dressed in military fatigues. He's got an AR-15, and he says, "Y'all can't go in there." And I'm like, why not? And he's like, "Y'all's going to have to turn around and leave." And very stern, very strict. We didn't question him. We left.
Right. Sure.
Okay. So my buddy, he's older. He's in his 60s. He's a coon hunter.
Right.
He knows the back way in there, so he sneaks over there, and this is what he tells me. They had a very large hole dug. They had rebar down there, and they were making a large concrete, what he described as what you would set a casket down into, but like a lot larger. It was a
like a pit?
No, what are them things called they set the casket in?
A vault?
Yeah, a vault.
Yeah.
And listen to this. They dug this hole so deep that they actually borrowed the coal mine equipment to dig this hole, okay? And then, not only did they dig this hole, on the other side of this busted bridge, they filled it in with 16 cement trucks that went down there. And then they put the large riprap rock over the top of it.
Right, right.
And all this work they done at this little back bridge, they don't fix it. They put pillars up and put dead end, road closed.
Imagine that.
So, there's more to this that's going to blow your mind. It comes out, and I spoke to a lady from the Historical Museum. They found bodies down there, okay? They wouldn't say human or not. So I called the Historical Museum, and I talked to them, because first I called the Corps of Engineers, and they're not going to tell you nothing. And
exactly.
She tells me this. This is what she told me. If it would have been humans, by law, they would have had to move them, identify them, and they would have had to be moved to a cemetery.
Correct.
But if it's not a human and it's animal in nature, by the federal government laws, animals can be buried legally on public lands when you're hunting stuff, because that's how they tell you you can get rid of the waste.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So if these beings or whatever they are aren't considered human, then they were perfectly within their legal right to hide them and to bury them and just be done with it.
They wouldn't
Exactly right.
that, though.
I mean, I'm talking. This is a place to where you wouldn't even. I mean, you couldn't even go through because there's nothing there. And they put this 2-lane $1 million bridge over a 3-foot deep creek. And I know why they done it. I think they had to put that bridge in to get the equipment
for
they
those
needed.
concrete trucks to get back to it.
That's right. Yep.
Now, it's very funny, very ironic, however you want to put it, that you bring that up. Here in Pennsylvania, not far from one of our investigation sites, there was an old abandoned air shaft to a defunct mine. Mine had went out of business in 1987. The air shaft was fenced off to where unless you really wanted to get in it, you couldn't get to it. I mean, you would have had to take wire cutters and cut through a couple layers of chain link fence and barbed wire to get to it.
Right.
But it was out in the middle of nowhere. Nobody would go there. To start with, you would have to know it was there to go to it. All of a sudden, 2 years ago, went down to it. Now the entire area around it is fenced off. Has a guard shack. Has a second guard in I believe it was a Tahoe that was actually black with blacked out windows. The guy in the guard shack has an AR-15, military dress, but yet no insignias to designate what branch of military.
Exactly.
Now, to even get back to this, it is off of a logging road that was done in the 1880s when they were logging with horses. And there's literally 2-foot deep trenches in this road to where a normal vehicle could not even get up to it. You have to use either a raised 4x4 or go on a 4-wheeler. And, just why did they do that?
Right. Maybe they buried it like that because they know that there ain't nobody going to be able to dig it up. I mean, the riffraff that they put on top of that is probably 6-8 foot deep just through, these huge boulders that you're not, and then
right.
No telling how deep it even is down in there,
Right.
And it's in the middle of nowhere. And I've actually, I'm trying to do this. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm trying to get my brother-in-law and possibly Sarah. I found there's a point down there, and it's on the lake part, and I want to camp it overnight because every time we go down there, it never fails that we have camera problems. Our cameras act up, they glitch up, and it's all in the same area that all this happens. But this is
I've
also
got an area like that also,
where we had, I want to let Sarah tell you about a man disappearing on us down there.
So we went down one night to this place that he was talking about over this $1 million bridge. And we were down there, And it was me and Kaylee, and we decided to stand on the bridge, and Mike was going to walk out from behind us while we stood there on the bridge. Well, me and Kaylee were there, and we were talking, you know, filming around. Well, I seen something that popped out from around a tree. And I hollered for Mike because he was the only one with the gun at this time, and he's a ways behind us. So, you know, it's going to take him a minute to get there.
Right.
So everybody got mad, you know, because I didn't have a gun and I needed to get to him to keep me and her safe because I just stopped filming. Because
Sarah, you need to carry a gun with you when you're out.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got her a gun now.
Yeah.
Oklahoma now, we're a constitutional carry state, so
Wonderful, so are we.
she can carry now.
But now let me throw this out to you just for general knowledge. In Indian folklore, there are actually hundreds of cases where supposedly braves have been able to hold off Sasquatches and also dogmen with a knife.
You know, I've read about that, and I came across that whenever I just done the video I done about the LaFleur County here in Oklahoma, the Bigfoot War.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you can't kill them, you can't kill them. They've killed them all through history. I mean, it's well documented.
They bleed, they die.
Yeah, and they have killed them with less powerful guns than what we have. A lot of people don't know about black powder rifles is it's hard to get that bullet to move faster. They're pretty much at a solid state, you know, speed, feet per second. The only thing really they done back then for power was they loaded a heavier bullet.
Mm.
So the 45-70 and all those were used, and they had no trouble killing them. Of course, the 45-70 was made to shoot through a horse and kill the Indian riding on the side of it, shooting underneath it.
Sure, 45-70 was actually a 45 caliber with 70 grains of black powder. That's how it got its designation.
Right.
And the actual buffalo rifle was a 50 caliber Sharps that used 110 grains of black powder.
That would take care of pretty much.
Yeah.
I personally, I would feel safe with today's 45-70 loads at what they're doing with them now.
Oh yeah, the pressures on the modern day 45-70 are about 60% greater than what the old black powder pressures were. So you get, you know, that 280 grain, 300 grain projectile moving at 2,400 feet a second. That has hellacious knockdown power to it.
Oh yeah. And you know, if my
there
little
is a team member that actually uses a 416.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that's truly a elephant rifle that was made to hunt big game in Africa.
I have one of those.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you know, and I get people telling me, why don't you release 2 and 3 videos, you know, a week? And it's because
It's a lot of work.
every time we go out, nothing happens. I mean,
Kind of like last night.
yeah, we went out last night and had pretty much nothing. And people don't understand, 90% of the time or higher, there's nothing happens.
Right.
But we're in the field hours upon hours and at different places, and we're making calls, and you know, we're tracking, and it's just.
And let me say this to you, Steven. You say nothing happens. Okay. That's your perspective of it.
Right.
There's so many times we go out that we say nothing happened. Then, because we take pictures constantly, you go back home, you start looking through pictures. Well, yeah, nothing happened, but damn, what's this looking at me?
Yeah, and that's what happened to us last night.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough video footage that I felt comfortable putting a video out because I don't like to throw junk at my viewers.
Right.
But
right.
Sarah, she got some good pictures, and we have a Facebook page, and that's the people that join that, they get extra things there. They see things that people on the videos don't.
Mm-hmm.
So she posted the photos, and But,
sure, I know, I saw them.
But we have some places coming up that we're going to be visiting that are probably going to be really bad places.
Yeah. There's one in particular that I'm dreading.
Yeah, we got some places we're dreading. But
I have places like that too.
But I mean, you can't learn if you don't experience it.
Right, and the old saying, courage is nothing more than putting your fear aside and doing your job.
Right. And brave is doing something you're afraid to do, but doing it anyways. I mean,
exactly.
It's just, and like we'd have young kids come in and be in their 18, 20 years old. They'd go to fill out an application with me, and they'd be like, what's it like to be a police officer? What's it like, in security? And really, there's only one thing you can tell them. You're just going to have to go out there and get you some and see if it's what you like.
Exactly.
There's no way to do it. I mean, everybody takes it differently.
Exactly.
And you're either going to fight or you're going to run. And that's will depend on the person, because that's just what our bodies do.
I think my scariest one was the whatever walked out from behind the tree has been my scariest one so far.
That was bad.
Yeah, that was bad night.
It just disappeared. It was somebody, and the way it was walking, my mom made the comment, she's like, Sarah, it wasn't just walking.
No.
It was coming at you. It was on a mission.
Yep.
And then when she yelled at me, that's when it disappears into thin air.
Yep.
And what a lot of people don't understand is this area we're in, this used to be an old town that's now flooded. There was graves down here that the caskets were floating in the water, and Indian graves are underwater, because my uncle was a mortician for many years, and he had to go down there and get them and take them, and they put them in a cemetery, a special cemetery. There was a lot.
Once more, I say you need to have a radiation detector. When that happened, when it disappeared, I will just about guarantee you, if you would have walked to it with that radiation detector, you would have picked up radiation.
It was coming right at you.
Yeah, I know. That's why
you would have picked up where it disappeared. It disappeared into a portal.
And
you would have picked that up.
And then I have a million questions of, like, the way it was coming at her. Was it going to hurt her? Was it going to scare her?
Oh, I felt like it was going to hurt me. That's why I turned around, because we needed to get to you. And I apologize to the viewers, but right then I felt our safety was more important than catching it on video at that time.
It is. Number one, your safety is paramount.
Yeah.
It is the number one thing out there, regardless of the viewers or anything else. Okay. You have to defend yourself and protect yourself at all times.
Yeah.
And, another theory I had also is people say, why are you catching these, these ghosts or spirits or demons? I call them demons. I don't believe in ghosts. I believe everything's demons or familiar spirits. But
right.
Everybody says, why do you catch these? And my theory that I've come up with, and I may be totally wrong, it's just a theory. When you go out there into the woods and you're running cameras and video and you have these recorders and everything, I believe they see a chance to expose themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You are very correct.
And you're going to draw that attention to you, because all these times that people are down there fishing and stuff, I'm sure these spirits are wanting to mess with them and stuff, but they really can't. But when you bring that equipment, they know that they can expose themselves to you. And I believe they take advantage of that.
Yeah, they have the opportunity.
Yeah,
yes.
They want to be seen.
Yes. We made a decision last night on the little place where we seen the alien and stuff. We went back there last night. That's where we went. We won't be returning back there.
No.
What's there is spiritual, we believe.
Yeah, it's demonic.
Because last night, Sarah was touched. It slapped her. Whatever it was, slapped her.
And after we get off this, you and I and Sarah need to have a deep discussion that I cannot make private or cannot make public. It has to, this is something that the three of us have to discuss, and I'll warn you about something.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
because she
fine.
was actually, I heard the slap,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to tell everybody right now, that's whenever Kaylee has decided now that she's done for now.
Yep, I can understand it.
We prayed and
Yeah, we prayed.
we left.
And it stopped.
Good.
It stopped. But when we prayed, you could hear it bust through the woods, like going away. You could hear it go away. It was loud going away. But that
before the slap happened,
yeah.
I kind of got a hot feeling. And then my arms started getting goosebumps on them. And then right as I was going to tell Mike about it, the slap hit and we're just ready to go. We just immediately prayed and we left.
Good.
And we was unable to get any footage. I went back. We was rolling footage on 2 cameras. I bought a brand new Kodak camera. Very nice camera. And we was running a GoPro at the same time. And up to the point on the recording, Sarah says, I've got goosebumps. I get a blue screen until we're in the car going down the road, already left. Whatever showed up stopped 2 cameras from recording there.
And the flashlight.
I actually have, we were at a site, we put out a bunch of game cameras, trail cams. I actually have a trail cam that took 9 pictures, but there's nothing there.
Right.
Something triggered it, but there's nothing there.
So
now we do know that a person was murdered right in pretty much right where the cameras were.
Okay. I didn't want
to few years earlier, and to this day they've never found out what killed him.
Okay, I didn't want to say anything, but the area that we're at right now, there was a guy that was took out by 2 other guys.
Yep.
And he was hung in that tree. And it happened, I think it was back in the 80s. And he worked in the oil field, and 2 guys took him out and they hung him in the tree. And later to find out, those 2 guys that hung him, their family owns the cult church that's right there on the corner by the place we was at last night.
Imagine that.
Yeah, so that's not a place that we want to return back to.
No, I'm going to highly suggest you stay away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because their main chapel room has it's painted black inside, and it has a 5-point star, and it is well known as a cult church, and it's only about a quarter of a mile from this place to where they hung this guy.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's just a really bad area. I could possibly, if the viewers wanted, I could get pictures of the church. Maybe I'd have to walk up to their steel gate. It would be, I know the law enforcement around here.
No, Stephen, you stay away from it.
Because I know the law enforcement around here, they don't even like to go there.
Yeah.
And Sarah, I'm going to tell you point blank, you stay farther away than Stephen.
Yeah, I don't.
And there's a reason for me saying that, but I can't get into it right now.
Oh, yeah. I wish you could have heard the slap. I mean, it was just like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard it before.
Yeah.
And I looked at her, and Sarah's like, oh my God, it just hit me. And she freaked out. And, it's understandable. It really messed with her. And my daughter, she, I'm not going to just embarrass her, but it was really hard for her. It's to the point where she's done. I mean, and she loved it. But whenever something touches you that you can't see,
yep,
we're not going back there.
No, I'm not going. I'm sorry, I ain't going and getting pictures.
And if there's
nothing.
anybody out there that's in my area that does demonology or anything like that, if they want the location, I'll share the location with them
Yeah.
if that's what they do. But that's not what I do. I do cryptids.
Right.
And that's
That's right.
That's not what I do.
Damn, if you were closer, I would literally give you a phone number to call who would be happy to do that.
Right.
But because of the fact she's from the Columbus, Ohio area,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
I'm pretty sure that's a little bit far for her to go.
Now, if you look in that picture, and I ain't told nobody about this, the little girl beside the tree,
Yeah.
look and see if you see a thing going down the side of that tree. It looks like a rope to you, like she's hung.
There's something there. I did notice that. There's something there. Now that you mention rope, yeah, that's a very good analogy.
And he was hung in that tree right there, right in that area.
Wow.
And that little girl
Oh.
showed up hung.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say because that little girl was there, there's more than just him being hung there going on.
Right.
Mm.
Well, if the cultists done it, they could have done a ritual.
Yeah.
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 You know, there's a place just down the road from us. It's a larger area where they do sacrifices. The big building we talked about last night.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to get permission for him to let us go in and investigate it.
Right.
It has happened down there since I was a little kid, and I'm not going to. They say that they have open doors down there, like actual doors they take from houses. And
Yeah.
they do rituals and seances, and they open these doors, and they say they let stuff into this world. But this place has been closed for a long time.
Years.
Yeah. And
Believe them.
so, I don't know. We've talked about going in and investigating it. I don't know if she'll go now.
Mm. That's something I have to think
When
about.
I'm done filling you in, no, she won't go.
All right. Well, then since we got short amount of time and we got to go pick up the kids in a minute, let's end the video, and
Okay.
we'll thank everybody for watching, and hopefully, you know, they'll give us some information we don't know and teach us, and we can teach them. That's what I like, is learning from everybody.
Exactly.
And
Guys, I thank everybody for your time. I'm sorry that I could not get into more detail on some of this tonight, but this is something private between Stephen, Sarah, and myself, and it has to be that way right now.
all right. And with that, we're going to wrap it up and thank Kurt for showing up.
Yep, we appreciate you coming and doing this podcast with us. We like learning and listening to you and everything.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you.